Week 2 of the Alliance of American Football has ended. And what I want to do is run through everything that happened and offer a little bit of analysis for every single game. So we'll go through first. The first game I want to talk about is the Birmingham Iron beat the Salt Lake Stallions 12-9. And what's interesting is the final score was about what I expected it to be. I thought it'd be a close game between two fairly solid rosters. What's surprising to me is the way that things played out. I thought Birmingham was the better team all the way, and they would have the lead, and Salt Lake would come up just short. Really, the truth is Salt Lake should have won the game. They had a lead 9-0 in the fourth quarter, and they just had a meltdown at the very end and lost the game. The Stallions lost because they had multiple. Salt Lake lost because they had multiple missed opportunities. They had a field goal attempt that went badly because of a drop snap. So that's one field goal they could have had, they lost. They also missed a field goal later in the game, so that's 2 field goals that were botched. And then at the very end of the game, they dropped a punt, which led to a Birmingham touchdown. Salt Lake allowed Birmingham, the Iron, to get back in the game. They gave them a chance. Birmingham took advantage of that. And you got to remember, the Birmingham Iron have the best quarterback in the entire Alliance of American Football. At the end of the fourth quarter, Luis Perez, the Birmingham Irons quarterback, led an 11-play drive that gave them the lead and ultimately gave the Birmingham Iron the win. I think the way the Birmingham Iron play is very, very indicative and very ironically, it makes sense with their name. They pound the ball. They're very similar to the way the Patriots won games this year. They play good defense. They pound the ball inside, running the football. And they have a really good quarterback, Luis Perez, who just takes care of the ball. He's not flashy. He's not exciting to watch. But he puts the ball in the right spot, does not make many mistakes. And I think the Birmingham Iron are a force to be reckoned with because they are patient as all get out. And very similar to the Patriots, if you give them a chance, they will make you pay. The second game I want to talk about the Arizona Hotshots barely beating the Memphis Express. They won 20-18. The Arizona Hotshots beat the Memphis Express 20-18. And I was shocked how close this game was. Week 1, Arizona's quarterback, John Wolford, was basically flawless. He was fantastic. In week 2, he took a step back. He wasn't as good. He had 2 interceptions in the first half. But I will give John Wolford credit. He kept battling. He battled back and pulled it out, got his team into position, and won the game. What's notable, though, is the way Memphis' defense is played. Memphis' defense is the reason why they were in the game. Memphis has a Mike Singletary. Love him or hate him. I'm not a big fan, but he's a wonderful defensive-minded head coach. And ultimately, the offense for Memphis is what limited them. In the first 2 games combined, their quarterback, Christian Hackenberg, has really struggled. He's got a 50% completion percentage, which means that 10 other quarterbacks in the Alliance of American Football have a higher completion percentage than Christian Hackenberg. And really, if 10 guys are ahead of you in a league where there's only 8 teams, you're pretty bad. And even if you adjust it for guys who started and only threw a couple passes, he's still like 7th. It's not good. In 2 games, he has 189 yards passing, a very low number. In comparison, Logan Woodside, John Woodford, and Luis Perez all have over 400 passing yards, and Garrett Gilbert has over 600 passing yards, 620. Christian Hackenberg only has 1 interception, which is fine, but he is at the very bottom of the Alliance of American Football. He's not playing well, he's not getting good coaching, and he's going to significantly hold back the Memphis Express. Until they make a change, it's not going to work. And by the way, I watched that game. There was nobody at that stadium. I'm worried about the Alliance of American Football's attendance. Nobody seems to be going to those games. I'm going to a game in San Diego this weekend, and I don't know what to expect. There's going to be like 10,000 people in a stadium built for 100,000 people. I don't know if that's going to be very off-putting or not, but I'm interested to see. It's also worth noting next week, the Memphis Express play the Orlando Apollos, and it's going to be rough for them. They are going to get demolished by Orlando, who's very likely the best team in the league, and it's going to be ugly. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Orlando Apollos. The Orlando Apollos beat the San Antonio Commanders 37-29, and the game was awesome. The game was as exciting as I expected. It was really, really good. Last week I said that the Orlando Apollos had a better quarterback, But then stupidly, I picked the Commanders to win the game, which is wrong. I mean, the better quarterback won this game. Garrett Gilbert, the quarterback for Orlando, was the difference in this football game. It was a tie game in the fourth quarter, and San Antonio quarterback Logan Woodside threw a really costly interception to the outside. He threw a late 10-yard out. It got picked off, returned for a touchdown. Pick six. And that was ultimately what gave Orlando the win. That was the difference in the game. Orlando's ability and the ability to run the football is what really impressed me with Orlando. I had a buddy of mine who played in the NFL text me, the Commanders are really good up front. Their roster's fantastic, and it didn't look like that on Sunday. It looked like they were well matched, and Orlando really took it to them physically up front. And I think Orlando's a force to be reckoned with. Their quarterback leads the Alliance of American Football in passing yards. Garrett Gilbert, he has 620 yards, which is almost 150 yards more than the next quarterback, Logan Woodside, who has 478. I still believe the Birmingham Iron have the best quarterback in the league, Luis Perez. But Orlando is probably the most complete team. They have the second best quarterback, Garrett Gilbert. And they will likely go 3-0 next week after beating the Memphis Express. Now, this is the last game of the weekend is the game I most want to dive into. I really want to deeply talk about this game. It's just wildly interesting to me. The San Diego Fleet beat the Atlanta Legends 24-12. And again, the words I used are wildly interesting. This game was just if you're a football nerd, had my attention. What we got to see was a transformation of strategy over the course of the game for San Diego. See, early in the game, San Diego's offensive line was atrocious. They were awful, awful, awful. They were so, so bad. And what's interesting is San Diego switched quarterbacks after week one. They ditched Mike Bercovici for a newer quarterback, Philip Nelson. And I wrote in my notes early in the first quarter, I said, it does not matter who plays quarterback for this team. Their offensive line is awful. They are awful. And they were. San Diego could not run longer passing concepts. They had problems. Their offensive line simply could not block long enough. It was a problem. So they needed to change the play calling. The quarterback didn't have time to get to the end of his drop. What he had to do is if you get to the end of your drop, the ball has to come out now. And they were not giving their quarterbacks time to get all the way through their passing concepts and get through their reads because they physically were unable to block long enough. Now, I think it's cool. I really like Mike Martz. Mike Martz is the San Diego Fleet's head coach. He is an offensive genius. I think he's a wonderful offensive mind. But it doesn't matter how clever or creative the play calling is if you cannot run the plays properly. The offensive line was struggling. They were doing really, really bad. And I felt bad for Mike Martz because I realized he doesn't have the dudes he needs to execute his offense. He's calling these wonderful play calls with, they're pulling the linemen to do pass blocks, and they're putting guys in motion in really cool ways, and they kept screwing it up. And it's like, dang it. And some of that's on the coaching with preparation. It's got to be. But some of it is just his guys physically they tried, and they physically couldn't get into the right position. They had bad technique. His offensive linemen were not very athletic. They were getting physically dominated, and they were missing a lot of assignments. But some of that's preparation. Some of that is just guys who don't understand the game very well. And what's even worse is the one time their quarterback, Philip Nelson, had an open guy. He had time in the pocket. He had the ability to go all the way through his reads. He had a guy wide open, and he missed it. He waited too long. He missed his window, threw the ball where the safety could make a play, and the safety knocked it down. All of this is to say that San Diego was awful on offense early in the game against the Atlanta Legends. So San Diego made a change. They simplified their play calling. They started running the ball a ton. And really fascinating to me is they had one touchdown drive late in the game. They had a rushing touchdown. And they only called one pass play the entire drive. They really, really scaled everything back. And it worked. It worked. They won the game. They won 24-12. So here's the main takeaway from the game between the San Diego Fleet and the Atlanta Legends. And I want to say it very, very briefly. I'm really sorry. It's impossible to find the box scores from Alliance of American Football games. You just can't. You can find like overall stats, the league leaders. You cannot find what happened from game to game. And so I cannot find the information I wanted to back this up. But what we learned is how important I wish I could tell you how many yards they ran for, but I can't. But what we did learn was how you run the ball. Your ability to run the ball is incredibly important in this league. See, many teams in the AAF have limited quarterbacks. Mike Bercovici, Philip Nelson, Matt Sims. But if you can run the ball really well, you have to rely less on your quarterback. You can have a worse quarterback, Christian Hackenberg. If you run the ball a bunch of times and use play action properly, like if I was calling plays, I so badly wish I could call plays for the Memphis Express because they have a great system and they just are not utilizing it properly. And my point is this. If you can run the ball really, really well, you need less from your quarterback. And then as defenses have to adjust to stopping the run, more defenders have to suck down to the line of scrimmage. You got to put 6 or 7 guys in the box, which means they're playing the run, meaning there are fewer people back to stop the pass. And it allows really good matchups downfield. And then you can even use play action, which is you fake the run and then throw the football. Or you can run screen passes, which is you suck everybody upfield, throw behind them as they're caught in a trap. I don't know. I am running the ball matters in this league. It really helps, gives you a huge advantage. And the Alliance of American Football is just such a fun league. I really think it's unique. It's very regional. And so far, after 2 weeks, I am loving the Alliance of American Football. My name is Zach Schomler. This is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. And I want to ask for your help. I want this show to grow. I want more people to watch and more people to listen to this podcast. My dream is to do this show as my full-time job. I want to own it myself. I want to do it on the internet and have complete control. I don't want to do it for CBS or ESPN. I don't want to work for a big network. I want to own it myself. And if you believe in that dream, please do me a huge favor. Help me grow by telling your friends about this podcast. Share it on Facebook, share a link on Twitter, maybe you screenshot it, put it on Instagram. I don't have a marketing strategy beyond this. This is all I have. You know, a lot of people, one of the most common comments I get on YouTube is, you have great content. We love your stuff. You deserve more viewers. What you should do is you should buy ad spaces on Facebook or Twitter or promote yourself and buy ads. I have no money. I am a broke college kid. I can't buy ad spaces. I don't have money to pay for books. And so my plan, this is my marketing plan, this is my strategy. All I plan to do is put every ounce of effort I have into making the very best podcast I can. I believe if I make a great product that people believe in, that people like, then they will share it with their friends. And so if you agree with that, if you believe in the show, if you like what I do, please do me a huge favor. Tell your friends about it. Help me grow by telling your friends about the show. I'm done. I feel like a used car salesman. It feels gross. I just try to be honest with you guys. And as always, please, if you believe in what I do, help me grow by telling your friends about this podcast.